Hey everybody, this is Pawpawdabs coming at you from way down south with another Sunday night story. If y'all tuned in Tuesday night and listened to my Tuesday night tickler for Sunday night story, you would know that I'm telling you a story about a man that I met about 30 years ago when we was building a house. Well, we wasn't, he was. But we had the same buddy that was having the house built. Well, some of my new subs probably didn't hear this Tuesday night tickler. So I'm going to bring everybody back up to par course on the Tuesday night tickler. Well, this man, he worked for Pawpaw after I met him. Well, I worked for myself back then. I worked for myself most of my life. I had a friend that was a mutual friend of the man I'm telling you a story about tonight. And all my new subs, if you don't know, Pawpawdabs tells stories on Sunday nights about his friends that he helped with cannabis. Well, this friend, he called me and told me he was building a house and wanted me to come and do the masonry work. So I went out there, and man, when I pulled up in the driveway, I could smell that juniper and cypress that he built this house out of. And it just had that fresh cut wood smell that just made you just want to stay there. But anyhow, I went in, and when I walked in, I noticed all the beautiful woodwork from a sawmill that he set up out back. And I asked him, I said, man, who's doing this work for you? He said, it's a friend of mine. He said his mom and daddy lives over in Pensacola, but he's from Frisco City, Alabama. And I said, do I know him? He said, no, you ain't never met this fella unless you met him in Vietnam. And he told me the fella's name, and I didn't know him. I knew some of his kin people. Back in them days, the name Galloway meant something in the military. It was a military family, and in America at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of different names. There was a lot of people coming to the country from other countries, and it was back in the 50s and 60s. But anyhow, I looked at the beautiful woodwork in this house, and he showed me the blueprints, and I told him I'd have to take them home and go over them and get an exact measurement on everything. And he said, well, you can take these. And I took them, and I went to the house, and I got my rule out, and I measured all the rooms he wanted tile in, and all the rooms he wanted hardwood floor in, and the stone work. And he had a special order for a bar / dining room table. It actually was come down and turned around like a boomerang kinda. And I told him I could make it. The fella that was doing his woodwork framing, he wasn't a very good trim carpenter, but he was a good framer. And most of the trim in this house was out of rough cut wood. and all of it was shot up with nail guns, and all the nails and everything was hid under wood putty and then painted to look just like the wood. It looked like it was just holding itself together. It was absolutely beautiful. It looked as good as it smelt. Well, I worked on that house for about 3 weeks. Almost, I was going into my 4th week. I finished up all the tile, hardwood, fancy doors, stuff like that this guy just didn't know how to do. I think he knew how to do it, he just wasn't good at it. He was better at the main frame. Come to find out, he was a barn builder. And all the specialty wood work was done by the homeowner with the help of Mr. Galloway. Anyhow, on that 4th week of me working on that house, the owner, I made that special order table for him, and he wanted it made out of hardwood that was put together. And Pawpaw didn't have time to be gluing no hardwood and drilling holes through it and putting wood dowels or metal all thread through it to hold it together. So I went and bought one of them 18-wheeler tractor trailers, the trailer part that's got the big enclosed part. Well, I cut all of that out, the aluminum, the steel, and all of that, and I took it to the scrap yard and got my money back for buying the whole thing. And I had that whole piece of wood that covered the floor in that 18-wheeler trailer. Well, whenever I got through cutting that table out, I had enough wood to make quite a few more tables left. But I cut it out to his dimensions, and whenever I installed it, I had sanded that thing and sanded it. Well, we run it through a planer first on both sides. It took some doing to get that boomerang through a planer, but we got it through there, and it looked good after we sanded it down and put about 10 coats of polyurethane. Well, it was a different type sealer, sort of like shellac back in the 60s, but it wasn't shellac. It was just it was another product that took as many coats as you wanted. The more coats you put on, the thicker it got, and it just looked good. Anyhow, I got that table installed, and I had to come back the next day to finish up a few pieces of stone where it tied in, a little backsplash. The backsplash was made out of stacked stone, and it was all grouted in real fine and sealed up with that sealer. You know, if you're a mason, you know what I'm talking about. And the owner of that house told me, he said, I got a fella that's helping me build this house. He said he lives down by the river. He said, before I built this house, I built a cabin down there, and it looked like one of those treehouse specialties where they climb up in the trees and bolt them beams up there, and then they build a nice little house up in the trees. Well, he had it up in the trees high enough to where the river wouldn't flood it. It was about 20 foot off the ground, but it was right there next to the river, and it was just in a beautiful place. Well, that day he told me, he said, that man that's helping me build this house, he wants to meet you. And I said, oh yeah? I said, well, that's fine with me. He said, well, he don't like meeting people. He's real reclusive. So just don't talk a whole lot. Let him talk to you and introduce him and introduce yourself and let him talk. I said, okay. Because he knows Pawpaw will run that damn mouth. I can talk. Especially especially if I get on one of these things right here. I got a little spot left in there for some of that shatter I got. I'm going to stick in there in a minute. But I'm catching y'all up on the story of how I met this good friend of mine. Well, anyhow, we went out on the back deck. Beautiful deck. It faced the river. You couldn't see the river from his house because it was about 400 yards to the river. Here in Florida, you can't build a house that close to the river. You can now, but back then you couldn't. You had to be 400 yards from the center of the river. All the rest of it was called water management. You could have a little cabin down there, but you had to be able to take it down if they wanted you to. But anyhow, I was standing there on that back deck. The old guy, he come walking down this homemade walkway. It's like one of those walkovers. It's just a deck, except for it looks like a sidewalk with handrails on it. Well, he come walking down that thing from the river, and he looked like he had a big old sombrero on when I first seen him. Well, the closer he got, the more I could see what he was about. He had 2 raccoons, one on each shoulder, and another one holding on to his leg. I ain't joking, y'all. I'm serious as a heart attack. Well, he come up there at the edge of that little boardwalk. He got his little raccoons off. They was about half grown, maybe 6, 7 months old. He got them down and he put them on the little boardwalk. He get back to the house. Boy, they turn around and boy, they run back down that boardwalk just like little old dogs. They done what he told them to. Well, he come on up there, and oh man, I just wanted to talk to him so bad about them raccoons. How'd you do that? Where'd you get them raccoons? How'd you teach them to do that? You know, I had 100 questions for him just right then. Well, I done told the old homeowner, I said, all right, I won't talk to him. Well, he come on up there, and he talked real slow. He said, you the fella that's been doing all this work. He said, I've been watching you. I said, well, okay. He said, my name's Mr. Galloway, so-and-so Galloway. I said, well, my name's Mr. Stewart. Nice to meet you. Well, he said, I've been watching what you do here for about the last month. He said, and I sure do like it. He said, you sure made everything in there. It all blends in. He said, and it's just beautiful. I wanted to shake your hand and introduce myself to you, and I wanted to know who you were. So that's how we met, right there. Well, when he finished working on that house, Pawpaw went back over and I got his ass and I hired him. And I taught him how to be a mason. Because he wasn't making about $13, $14 an hour doing that stuff. And I taught him how to be a mason in about a year, and he made better money and all that good stuff that went with it. Well, we worked together about 25 years. On and off, you know, he'd get tired of doing that masonry work, and in the wintertime he'd have to go back up to Frisco City, Alabama to winterize his farm and stay there. He hunted up there. He just didn't work in the wintertime. He didn't. He just didn't like winter. Well, we live in a part of Florida where we get good cold winters. It gets down to, on extreme, 10 degrees. But normally, 40, 35, 40. And some winters we have a hard winter that gets down in the 20s. But it's northwest Florida. Anyhow, we worked together for a pretty good while. And one day, after we got older, I could tell, I said something was wrong with him. He liked drinking. You know, he wasn't one of them damn drunks that get out there. He wasn't married. He didn't have no wife. But at the time, he had moved back into town and was taking care of his mother and father. Well, he did that for about 7, 8, 9 years. Well, they passed away. They were real old. Lived a good, long life. And his mother was still living when he showed me that he had melanoma. Well, Pawpaw knew something was wrong with him because he just didn't have no energy. And one day he took his shirt off and he showed me a spot in between his shoulders, right between his shoulders, right on the left-hand side of his spine. He had a wound that was about this long, about that wide, and about that deep. When he turned around and showed that to me, I instantly wanted to put a bandage on it because I could see his spine. And he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "Pawpaw, it's getting to where I can't do this old work." He said, that stuff's getting into my muscles. I said, "What is that?" He said, "It's melanoma, sun cancer." And my old heart just melted. He said, "I ain't able to do this work. It's too hard for me. It's hurting me. I'm drinking more and I ain't able to take care of my mama." He said, "But I can't afford to quit working." Pawpaw should have laid him off and let him draw his pennies. But he begged me to let him keep working. Y'all know Pawpaw. I love everybody and everything. So I told him, I said, "I got some light duty you can do and I'll pay you the same thing you've been making." And that's what I did for about another 6 months, something like that. Well, this was in 2004. We was just getting over a hot summer. And it was in August, no, July, somewhere around in there. And I got bit by a bunch of bees that I'm allergic to. Well, all my men was working, and he's the only one that seen. I was working out on a fence, a stucco fence that came up about waist high, and it had some beautiful little columns out front. And I was working on them columns and that fence, and them bees come up out the ground and stung me in the face and my neck. And I went into instant anaphylactic shock. Well, I had a couple of men, him and Fly Rod, buddy I told y'all a story about, one of my first buddies. Well, Mr. Galloway, he come running over there and I seen what was going on, and he run to the truck and got in my lunch box and got that damn old EpiPen out. He come over there and boy, he fired that thing in me. And of course I come to, and they picked me up and towed me around to the back around there so them other young men that was working for me wouldn't see me that way. And I got around there and I was kind of coming to, and I told him, I said, I got to have another one of them shots. And he went and got my lunch box, and I took another shot of that EpiPen because I'm supposed to take 2 of them and then go to the hospital. Well, I took that second one, and I told them, I said, "Y'all got to get me in that truck and get me to the hospital." So they did. Well, they didn't make it to the hospital. Pawpaw's whole throat started closing up on me, and I couldn't breathe. They went hauling ass, and they went diving up into a fire department. There was an ambulance there, and they got me out of that truck, got me on that stretcher, and I started having a seizure. I was shaking real bad. And they closed the door, and I could see Mr. Galloway's the concern in his eyes as they closed them ambulance doors and took me to the hospital. Well, the old boy in the ambulance, I was having a bad seizure. He kept telling me, be still, be still. I couldn't. Hell, I was dying. And I didn't have no oxygen. They had that old mask on me, and I was getting a little bit of it. And he put his knee on me, and he gave me another shot where you're supposed to, and it tore a bunch of muscles all the way around my shoulder. Well, I was real sore for 4 or 5 months. Well, about 3 months after that, it was in December, we'd done and had a hurricane, and that hurricane came, I believe it was in October. I think it was Hurricane Ivan. Well, it tore a bunch of shit up around here. You know, we don't get them very often, about every 50, 60 years, but we got it that year. Oh, we lost some houses and some bunch of shingles and roofs and a bunch of trees. That's why Pawpaw's been planting trees since then. But I was hurt. Anyhow, I didn't know how bad I was hurt. I kept on working too. Well, after that hurricane, we was setting jobs back up. I had 4 of them going at one time. And I had to have scaffolding on all of them. We was putting the scaffolding back up that we took down before the hurricane. And of course, all the houses I was working on, we had to board up the windows and the doors because they all right there on the beach. We didn't lose any of my jobs, but anyhow, we was on one of those jobs putting that scaffolding back together. And me and Mr. Galloway was building it. I had one more jack to put up. It was just one set of scaffolds. It was up over my head, so I set it up there, and I just leaned it up there, and I told him, don't step on that now. I got to finish locking it in. Well, he didn't hear me because he was doing something else with a staple gun, and he just didn't hear me. Well, he turned around and stepped right on that board. It flipped up sideways, and he fell. Scared me to death. The board skinned him up, on his side and his leg, and he hit that old soft sand down there. When he hit that, his head went over and bumped the leg of that scaffold. It like to knocked him out, but he's tough. It didn't knock him out. He got up from there pissed off. Well, Pawpaw wanted to take him to the damn hospital so he could get checked. He wouldn't go. And I know why he wouldn't go. He didn't want that doctor to see that melanoma on him. Well, the reason I know that's because he told me a couple of months later. Well, them little old scratches on his side caused a blood clot. And it wasn't but a damn day after that it caused it. He wouldn't go to the doctor that day that it happened. But his high school sweetheart come by to see him. And she made him go to the doctor. Of course, the doctor put him in the hospital. Had to take care of that blood clot. Got him on them blood thinners and retired him. Well, his high school sweetheart, she sued the company that we was contracting for, or the insurance company. He didn't want to, but he couldn't work no more. So the insurance company called me and asked me what happened, and I told them what happened. I was honest. I said he fell because he didn't hear me tell him not to get on that board. And I told him, it's not his fault. I should have never walked away from that board. But I was hurt. And I was taking pain pills. And I shouldn't have been on the job, and he shouldn't have been there either. But we was there. Anyhow, the insurance company paid him a good penny. And I finally got enough nerve to go over and see him. Of course, I called him on the phone and checked on him and made sure that he got paid from that insurance company. But he was going through that chemotherapy because of that cancer, and he didn't want me to see him without no hair. He was 67 years old and still working with me doing masonry work. And he had a full head of hair. He was proud of that hair, boy. And sing, he could sing like, you just tell him any country and western singer and he could sing just like them. I told y'all Tuesday night that he was a champion game caller in the state of Alabama. His name's still on the record books. But anyhow, after a couple of months of him going through that chemo, his hair started coming back, and he called me one day and he said, man, I sure need you to come and see me. I said, okay. Well, whenever I first met him, he didn't use cannabis. He drank whiskey. And them doctors had him on all kind of pills. He was drinking his whiskey too. He wouldn't hardly take them pills. He'd drink him some whiskey, and it did him better, I guess. He said it made him feel better. But anyhow, I'd done and quit working because I had injuries myself. And I went over there. He said, I know you smoke cannabis. I said, yeah. I said, how do you know? He said, because Fly Rod told me. Fly Rod was still alive then. Mr. Galloway passed away before Fly Rod did. And anyhow, y'all know Pawpaw, I had a big old sack of it in my pocket. If it wasn't in my pocket, it was in the truck. Well, he said, I sure would like to try some of it before I die. I looked at him and I told him right to his face. I said, it'll sure do you a lot better than that alcohol will. So Pawpaw went to the truck. I brung out one of them old spoon pipes and some rolling papers. And I asked him, I said, how do you want to smoke it? He said, I don't know how you smoke it. I said, well, you can roll it up like a cigarette, or you can put it in a pipe, or you can put it in a bone. He said, what's a bone? You know, he was one of them down south Alabama boys that ain't never been around it. So he said, Pawpaw's gonna fire this thing right here up in his honor. Rest in peace, Mr. Galloway. Been able to smoke a blunt, but these zigzag grape wraps are pretty smooth. Well, anyhow, Pawpaw, I rolled him up a big old fat one, and I sat there and I smoked it with him. And if you ever known anybody with cancer that was dying, they don't feel good and they're pretty depressed. Well, Pawpaw's strain that I've had for a long time is a sativa. And it is one of the original sativas. I went way down there in South America and got them seeds myself. And I've been growing it for about 40 years. Some people say, well, how did you keep seeds? Well, if you grow, you know. We knew what cloning was back then, and we knew how to seed it. So that's how I kept it. This chair's trying to throw me out the floor. These lights gave me a headache earlier, and I had to wear these old shades. This is my motorcycle shades. But anyhow, we sat there and we smoked that thing, and every time he took a puff, I seen a little more life coming into him, in the complexion of his face. We finished that thing up. He looked at me. He said, boy, I ain't felt this damn good in a pretty damn good while. He said, you got to leave some of that shit with me. I just threw the whole damn bag down there, and I said, if you run out, call me, and I'll get you some more, boy. He said, okay. Well, I went on, and that kind of become a weekly thing. Well, he got a little better, with the chemotherapy and all, but it done set into his liver. Then it went into his lungs, and all that cancer. Well, Papa's proud to say that I kept him in medicine until the day he died. And that's my Sunday night story about my best friend, Mr. Chuck Galloway. Rest in peace, brother. Papa's going to do a couple of shout-outs. Last night in my little live, or early this morning, I just shouted out people that been commenting on my videos. And that's usually the ones I shout out. Tonight, this Sunday night story, Pawpaw went over his YouTube channel, and all that comes through your email. And I picked 12. I didn't pick them. I picked them from the last one that subscribed all the way down to the 12. A full dozen. And I'm going to give those folks a shout out. There's a couple of them already commented on Pawpaw's videos. Some of them go back to my old videos and comment. I got to get these glasses clean so I can see. Alright. First of all, I want to tell every one of y'all that did what Pawpaw asked y'all to do and went and visited Primo Kush. I also want to thank y'all for going and visiting the young lady that I asked y'all to go visit about a week or so ago. Pawpaw went over and I looked in them comments, and I'm going to tell y'all, all y'all know who you are that went over there and visited them for Pawpaw. And all y'all that went over and visited them and subscribed up to them, Pawpaw knows y'all got a big a heart as I do. Because I read every one of y'all's comments and I liked it. And y'all should have got a notice that I liked that. Y'all know Pawpaw, I ain't up on these newfangled gadgets, but I got a laptop in there that I've been working with for about 10, 15 years. But I'm learning about these phones. Anyhow, I wanted to thank y'all for going over and visiting Primo Kush. Some of y'all left some of the most wonderful comments down there for him. And y'all know who you are. I was going to write all y'all's name down, too. I still might. But I'm not, because Primo Kush went by every one of y'all and told y'all thank you. My number 12th subscriber is Smash. And Pawpaw met him, I think it was on Southern Dabbers nightly channel. If it wasn't, it may have been over on California Riches, or I don't remember where, but we run across each other, and Pawpaw's glad we did, because the first video I watched of him was him showing a big old bag of beans that he was going to give away at Harborside Dispensary over in California. Well, he gave a few out there at the dispensary, and they kind of got on to him because they sell seeds too, and he was giving them away. And Smash, that's what kind of love Pawpaw's talking about. One plant, one love, and they're free. Smash, you got a special place in Pawpaw's heart. I think that was very commendable of you to give them seeds away. And if all y'all go sub up to him and watch some of his videos, you'll know how genuinely he cares about mankind. Number 11 is Melty Heads. Number 10 was Scrog Mac Farm. Then we got Johnny Dabber, Clyde Fitzgerald, The House of Tory, Headband Harvest, T-Town Tim, Doug 7. Pawpaw's been talking about you for a while, and you finally subbed up to me. I appreciate it, buddy. I'm subbed to you too, and I'm subbed to all y'all that I'm calling your names out. Next one is Kings Only. Kings, Kings Only. Next one is Motown Grower. Then you have Anon Stuffer. Anon Stuffer. A-N-O-N Stuffer. And the very last subscriber I got, which was number 350, was Sweet Tea. Sweet Tea. That's it. And Pawpaw wants to thank all of y'all for subscribing to me. And I thank y'all for the thumbs up. But most importantly, I thank you for the comments. That's a chance for me to talk to you and thank you. And y'all are some loving people. Y'all have made me feel welcome in this community. Even though I'm an old man and I don't fit in sometimes. Whenever I get stoned, I ramble on. I'm ADD as a damn little kid that's had 1,000,000 toys. Where'd that blunt go? See, there it is. See? When I go getting high, I can't remember shit. I just get off the subject, talk about this for a minute, then talk about that for a minute. So that's why I don't smoke a lot of cannabis when I'm telling y'all these stories on Sunday night. But this Sunday night story is over, and Pawpaw loves every one of you. And I really appreciate all the subs, every one of you. And I love all of you. And I love everything. And this is Pawpaw's saying. Everything in this old world is good. Even if it's bad. Even if it costs somebody their life. we learn something from it. Because we have the most intelligent brains on this earth. I've been around all kind of animals, birds, mammals, fish. There ain't nothing on this earth that has a brain like us. The mammals are close. You know, all the monkeys and elephants, stuff, big animals like that. They get smart, yeah. But they don't know how to build something. They don't know how to take nothing and make something. And whenever you get feeling like you down and out, you ain't worthy, you just remember, every one of us has got a special talent, one way or another. Even if that talent ain't doing nothing but hating yourself. And Pawpaw's here to tell you, if you don't like yourself, you can't like nobody else. So you gotta like yourself first. And I hope that you can learn to do that if you're not liking yourself. Because everything on this earth is good, even you. Until next time, this is Pawpawdabs from way down south, signing out, and I love every one of you. Don't forget it.